All right, so on to the U.S. economy. Um, the U.S. has an economic system that's based on free enterprise, where consumers and business owners decide what goods and services to produce. So, our essential question is, what are some key elements of the U.S. free enterprise system? All right, goods and services. A good is any object that you buy to satisfy a want. A service is any action that is provided to meet a want. One example is um, you want a CD from the latest hit artist. And in order to get that CD, you go to your neighbor and ask to rake leaves or to babysit or whatever to get 30 bucks so that you can go to the store and buy the CD. You provided a service to your neighbor. They gave you money and you went and spent that money on a good. That's the CD. All right, so what to buy? People are always deciding what goods to buy, and but first they want to meet their basic needs. That's food, clothing, and shelter, and close behind that is medical care. All right, let's talk about the four factors of production. The four factors of production is how a product or even a service gets from idea to market. Here are the four factors. First, natural resources. That is simply the raw materials used to make goods. It's how they produce the plastic in order to make an iPhone, for example. Um, Capital resources, that is capital goods. Big ticket items such as machines, factories, bulk supplies, things of that nature used to produce products. Labor resources, that's workers who actually work on the assembly line or are actually providing the services out in the field. And finally, last but probably the most important component is an entrepreneur. That is simply a word for someone with initiative that wants to start a business, or they have an idea and they invent something. It's people who bring together all the three resources listed above and produce something. All right, so how do we measure the economy as a whole? It can be measured quickly by gross domestic product. That is simply the total dollar amount of all goods and services that's produced in a country each year. And that is how economies are measured against one another, is using gross domestic product to see whose economy is functioning at a higher level. Now, in a free market economy, a free enterprise or market economy that we have, the government should typically play a limited role. They leave it up to the citizens, the individual consumer, and individual businesses to make the economic decisions. And they compete in the marketplace. Now, the marketplace is a setting where goods and services are exchanged. This all functions on the law of supply and demand. Consumers, people who use the goods or services, demand a certain number of a particular item. You have 100 phones and you have 1,000 people lined up to buy the phone. If that demand for that particular good is greater than the supply, you can expect the price to go up. Now, if that supply, you have 1,000 phones and only 100 people wanting them, that's a situation where supply is greater than demand and the prices go down. Now, profit is the motive behind most any business, to make a profit. That is simply the money that remains for the business owner to keep after all costs have been paid. After he pays for the natural resources, the capital resources, and the labor resources, Now he's left with his profit. Competition is a key component of the free enterprise economy. Businesses sell similar goods and services. You have Samsung Galaxy S3, you have the iPhone 4, or now it's 5 and S4, I don't know, I can't keep up. But they compete against each other to attract customers. Now, this is a key component in the free enterprise economy because that competition can drive a company to manufacture an improved product. They can improve it by making it cheaper for the consumer to buy, but they can also improve maybe the technological features. That's a big selling point for people who are looking at the latest technology is what can this phone do, or what can this laptop do? What's the draw? How do they get people to buy their product? And that is that's what competition's all about, bringing out the best. Briefly touch on the other economic system. The command economy is not ruled by supply and demand. It's ruled by the government deciding what and how much goods are produced, and also sets prices. North Korea, Cuba, to a lesser extent nowadays China, though in the past they could have been considered a command economy. A traditional economy is more based on tradition and culture. It is kind of like market economy, except we're talking more about bartering and trading when we start getting into a traditional economy. Alright, now let's talk about the global economy for a moment. The increase in technology regarding communication, being able to talk with one another across the internet, across the globe, and also transportation, actually being able to physically move goods, services, people, etc. across the globe, has increased globalization, or essentially a global economy where we're all interconnected. Now, some nations choose to restrict trade in order to protect businesses inside that particular nation. Now, these are called trade barriers. The main trade barrier is a tariff. That is a tax on anything imported into the country. The effect of the tariff raises the good that's being imported in order to limit competition for goods that have been produced in that country. For instance, an American car manufacturer wants to sell a car for $10,000. A Japanese car manufacturer can sell one for $8,000. The U.S. government, let's say they put tariffs on all automobiles by foreign manufacturers, and that tariff effectively raises the price of a Japanese car to $10,000. It has now leveled the playing field for the U.S. car manufacturer, and this is all done in order to protect the domestic business. And that is it for the economics section. The briefest section of all will be the United States culture, U.S. culture. We'll talk about that next.